and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today we are going to be doing the Eddie Munson tag. So buzzing. Like, I think everybody can say that they just totally fell in love with Eddie this season. He was brilliant, like the sweetest, nicest, cutest wee apple dumpling on the planet, and like buzzing somebody created a tag about him. So I will link who originally created this tag in the description box down below. But I was tagging this by Lizzie as Elf, who I will also tag in the description box down below. So I'm going to say Meet Your Baker by Ellie Alexander. I only read this like the other month and I have no been able to stop thinking about Juliet and her mum and like her mum's boyfriend and like the teenagers who work in the bake shop. Like, I've not been able to stop thinking about this book for the minute I read it. It was just so brilliant. And like, I have two wish lists because I'm weird, and so I've got like my main wish list, which is books like that I want to get to right away, and then I've got like my book series that I need to finish, and usually when I'll like start a series I'll move them to my main wish list so that I can like remember to buy them. But I had all of these like on my other wish list, and I've just moved the second one across to my main wish list because I think I'm going to need to pick that up and read that soon, and I'm thinking that this might be like a cute one to read round about Christmas because it's quite low stakes and pretty bingeable, and I think the baking stuff will like just help get me really excited for Christmas because that's one of my favourite things that I love about that time of year. So this was brilliant. If you like cosy mysteries, just read this because it's phenomenal and you will love it. I'm going to recommend The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. I don't feel personally like this series gets the amount of love that it deserves. Like, I only know one other booktuber, Rosie Cockshut, who talks about this series. Nobody else. I have not seen a single solitary person talk about it, and it's amazing. So you have Irene, and Irene lives in this world where she is a library, and there are so many different alternate dimensions and worlds where like anything at all is possible, and they try to capture any books that make reference to other worlds or that could be potentially dangerous or lead people to suspect that all these other dimensions and stuff actually exist. So they travel through all these other worlds collecting these works so that it doesn't disrupt like the flow of the worlds basically. And it's brilliant. There are like just so many amazing creatures in here. Like the spies for the library are amazing, and they have like such a unique power, and the magic system in this is phenomenal. There's like dragons, there's fairies, there's vampires. It's just such a great series, and like we get to follow Irene right through the series. I say that like I haven't finished the series yet, I've 3 to go, but it's just amazing, and she is like so badass, so funny, so intelligent, and like she actually has an amazing personality, and she's not just your default sassy female character, which is great. And even all the side characters in here, you spend so much time with them that you really get to like know and love them, and it brings in like other characters for like earlier in the season in the later books, and it's just amazing. The world building is superb, and like every book it's sort of feel like murder mystery fantasy, like, or mystery fantasy I would say, because every book like they are trying to, well, capture a book, but there's also like other shenanigans that's happening, and usually like somebody has been murdered and they are investigating it and trying to find out what the deal is. But they are phenomenal. Some of the best books I've read, and I definitely want to try and finish the series this year because they're just phenomenal. That is Boyfriends by Michael Pedersen. I read this recently and I just can't get over how amazing it was. I did a single review for this on my channel, which is something I have never done before, just because this book just meant so much to me, and I personally don't see anything else topping this book for me this year. Like, this was just amazing. Up until then, it had been Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, and I thought he was going to get like 2 for 2 for favourite book, because House in the Cerulean Sea was my favourite of last year, but this has just topped it. It was just absolutely outstanding, and if you want to hear my thoughts, I'll link my video where I talk about this wherever it is. Maggie's Grave by David Sodergren. I recommend this on the channel so effing frequently, but like, it's well deserved. This book is amazing. So we have Maggie, and she is our main bad witch, and she comes to life every so often in this wee rural Scottish town and tries to steal people's babies, and the townspeople try to not let that happen. It is absolutely fantastic. Like, such good horror. It is set in Scotland. There is a lot of the Scots dialect in here, which we know I love. It is funny, it is quirky, it is gory, it is just everything that you would want for a horror spooky novel, and like, I was just gripped. Every single page of this I was gripped by. David Sodergren paints such a vivid picture of Maggie and how Maggie would look and her movements, and I still think back to that because this is one of the few books that I read where like I was actually able to envisage what was happening. My brain doesn't do that. I know like loads of other people will read a book and they can just like picture everything. My brain doesn't do that. It takes like a very special book for that to happen, and I managed to get that with this one. It was just phenomenal, and oh my god, like somebody needs to make a movie of this because it would be effing epic. But I think I say that about every single David Sodergren book that I've read so far. But it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anybody who listens. David Sodergren is definitely my favourite horror writer these days, and I just want to binge read everything he has ever written. So I'm going to say Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, and I don't know if epic is the word. There are several scenes in here that like have just stuck with me for like ever, and that I just can't shake, and so I'm going to talk about them now. So like, if you are interested in reading this book and you didn't want to be spoiled, like click away to the wee spoiler warning goes, because I am going to talk about it in quite graphic detail. And also like, if you didn't do gore, click away to where the spoiler warning goes, because it's not going to be for you. So essentially Haunted is like a group of writers who all get invited to this very mysterious writing retreat where they get to like work on their current works in progress and be like away from, well, the rest of society. They don't get their phones, they are not allowed to leave, they are essentially just locked in, and the hope is, you know, being there with all the other writers will inspire some great dialogue, some like great hints and tips, and they'll be able to just solely focus on their writing projects. And quickly they realise that they are all there for a reason, and you know, they aren't getting out. And so it becomes a wee bit survival horror, which is epic. So there's 2 scenes in here that have stuck with me and will stick with me like till I am on my deathbed. Firstly, it's like you get to see flashbacks and flash forwards, and then like the short stories that the writers are working on, and you would think that that would be confusing as a book, but it isn't. It's masterfully done. But one of the guys in here, he has a swimming pool, and he is like, it's a flashback, so he is a teenager at the time, and he has realised that if he, you know, hovers at the pool filter, there's an element of suction there that feels quite nice. And, you know, with it being a pool filter, it sucks out his intestines through his butthole, and he needs to decide to either chew through his own intestines to free himself or drown. And Simon's looking at me right now like I am a weirdo. Any comments?
What the dickens? What's wrong with an Agatha Christie? What sort of individual comes up with this concept as an idea?
It's phenomenal. It's so brilliant.
That guy needs therapy.
Well, so do I, clearly, because I love it. So there is that, and like Chuck Palahniuk just writes it with such a sense of urgency and like stress, and it's just amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will never no think about that for as long as I live. And then the second scene in here is quickly they realise that they are going to run out of food soon, and like, oh, survival horror, make the decision that they are going to eat somebody in the group. And so I can't remember exactly what happens, but they assume that this person is dead, and so they're like, right, well, you're the yin that we're eating. And so they cut off like her butt cheek and thigh, and they cook her, and they're all sitting around eating her. And then this woman is not dead, and she wakes up and is in a lot of pain because they have like cut bits of her off, and she realises that they are in fact eating her. And like, oh, it's just written so well. It is so brilliant. And I don't know if you would call them epic, but I think that they are, personally. Absolutely brilliant. Would recommend for everybody to pick this up. It is phenomenally twisted and dark and just brilliant. Now, I've picked The Library by Bella Osborne, and I don't really think that this is protective sibling. I feel like this is more like mother, but like I think that that's fine because I feel like Eddie and Steve co-parented Dustin in series 4, so like I feel like a parent role is fine. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I actually got this as an ARC from NetGalley, and I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but this was like a 5-star read for me, and like, it was just so phenomenal. So Tom is a teenager and his mum has passed away, and he is struggling to deal with that, and he doesn't really have a great relationship with his dad. His dad is also struggling. He is struggling financially, he's struggling with his own grief, and he is struggling with the fact that he is an alcoholic through trying to deal with the grief. And so Tom doesn't really get an opportunity to be a kid a lot of the time. He needs to essentially be a parent to his dad now, as well as trying to navigate high school exams and his own grief. We then have Maggie, who is an elderly lady, and she runs a wee farm by herself. She doesn't have a lot of friends or family round about her, and so she goes to her local library and participates in a book group, and she basically just does it for company and so that she has like an excuse to leave her farm for a wee bit. And Tom has decided that he would quite like to get a girlfriend, and has decided that the best way to get a girlfriend is to start reading some romance books and get some hints and tips as to how to woo a future potential bird. And Tom and Maggie become really fast friends. Tom joins this book group, and they start reading some different stuff due to Tom, and Tom starts reading some different stuff due to them. But unfortunately they decide that they are going to close the library, and so Tom and Maggie team up so that they can stop the library from being closed, because they feel like it is a necessity to them, but also it does such a great service for the community that it is a cause worth fighting for. And this was just brilliant. I didn't expect to love this as much as I did, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be cute, and I thought it was just going to be like a nice wee story about friendship, which I would enjoy, but this actually packed a pretty powerful emotional punch. And Tom and Maggie's relationship was just phenomenal. They both help each other so much and are there for each other through so much. I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and I actually need to reread this at some point because it was just... it was so good, it was so amazing. I would recommend this to anybody who likes an elderly character in a book, anybody who just like books about books because they are so heavily featured in here, or if you are into literary fiction and you just want like a cute, quick, cosy wee emotional read, this is definitely right up your street. It was fantastic. This is quite a recent read for me, but I'm going to say The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I read this, and to be honest with you, I went into it expecting not to enjoy it. Firstly, it's romance. which like is no my bag. And secondly, I read it as part of my Try That Trope challenge, where I put it up against another book that I thought I was going to enjoy far more, and this one ended up being the winner. It was just amazing. Tiffy and Leon like are characters that just live in my heart now, and I find myself thinking about them quite frequently, to be honest, more than I probably should, because they were just so cute and adorable, and I really loved their relationship, and like I feel like they're real people and I just wish them all the happiness in the world, even though they aren't, they're fictional characters. But again, I went into this book expecting it to be pretty surface level, and actually it was really deep and emotional, and Beth O'Leary just handles some really difficult subjects. In this she deals a lot with coercive control and manipulative relationships, gaslighting and abuse. And it was just handled so fantastically. And I've just not really been able to stop thinking about this book since. I think that even if romance isn't your genre, that you would probably enjoy this, because the characters are just written so flawlessly that they feel so real, and you get to experience everything that they've been through and then everything that they go through together so brilliantly. And like even the side characters in this I thoroughly enjoyed, and I feel like that son that always really tells me it's going to be a 5-star read, as if I like really care about the side characters. I'm like, no, this book is phenomenal. But it was just such a great book, and I really went into this no expecting that I was going to enjoy it, and it ended up being one of the best books that I've read so far this year. It was brilliant. I took so much away from it. I really just loved the writing, and I definitely want to check out more of Beth O'Leary's work after this, because it was just so great. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!